Peace was only 19 when she was sent to the city to work for a wealthy couple with her little brother, Sam. She was to serve as a maid, while Sam would help with errands and odd jobs. It wasn't the life she'd imagined for herself. But with her aunt, you were either married off early or sent out to make ends meet. But when she arrived at the big mansion, she didn't expect kindness from her wealthy bosses, Marie and Henry, who welcomed her with open arms. Instead of sleeping in storage rooms like she thought, she was offered a beautiful room to share with Sam, ate the same food as her bosses, and received beautiful designer clothes and gifts from Marie. Marie especially was so fond of her and told her, "We see you and Sam as a family." One evening, Peace was done with her chores and was heading to bed when Marie called her to the living room. "Peace," Marie began, her voice softer than usual. "Please, sit down." Peace obeyed, her heart pounding with a sudden unease. "There's something I'd like to tell you. Your aunt, she wasn't entirely honest with you about the nature of your employment here." Peace's breath hitched. She had always sensed a hidden layer beneath the surface of their arrangement. "What do you mean, madam?" "We paid her a significant sum of money not for you to work as a maid. She sent you to us as someone who could help us have a child." The words hit Peace like a physical blow. With her little knowledge from her secondary biology studies, she knew the word. "A surrogate." I don't understand," Peace stammered, her voice trembling. Marie sat down opposite her, her expression earnest. "Henry and we have difficulties in bearing children. It is a source of great sorrow for us. Your aunt suggested this arrangement. We didn't want to force you into it. That's why we waited this long to tell you." Tears welled in Peace's eyes, a mixture of shock, betrayal, and violation. She sold me. Yes, and we are prepared to offer you a substantial amount of money, enough to secure a better future for you and Sam. More than you could ever earn as a maid. Peace could barely sleep that night. As much as she despised her aunt for selling her off, she thought of Sam's future. He needed to go to school, and also Marie. She and her husband have been good to her. Perhaps it was only right to help them if she could. "I accept," she told Marie the next morning, "but on the condition that you will allow me to see them grow, even if I get to work here my whole life." Marie nodded quickly, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "That is our intention. We want you to be a part of their life. We want them to know you." The arrangements were made swiftly. Dr. Elam, the family's doctor, performed the procedure in the privacy of their home. Days turned into weeks, and soon she was confirmed pregnant. Marie and Henry pampered her, offered Peace nutritious meals, a comfortable room, and relieved her of her heavier duties. As the months procreated, with every kick, every sensation, Peace developed a strong bond with the baby. Marie, meanwhile, meticulously played her part. A growing prosthetic bump became her constant companion, and she spoke of morning sickness and cravings with practiced ease to their curious friends and relatives. 9 months later, her labor was long and difficult. Peace drifted in and out of consciousness, the pain relentless. Finally, amidst the sterile smells and hushed voices of the private hospital, she gave birth. Exhausted but filled with a profound sense of completion, she closed her eyes, longing to hold the child she had carried for 9 months. When she finally awoke, her arms ached with a hollowness that went beyond physical exhaustion. The baby was not beside her. Panic clawed at her throat. "The baby?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. "Where is my baby?" The door opened and Henry entered, his expression carefully neutral, almost clinical. "He's with Marie," he stated, his voice devoid of warmth. "Please," she begged, tears welling in her eyes. "Let me see him. Just for a moment. Let me hold my child." Henry shook his head, his jaw firm. "That's not possible, Peace. Marie is taking care of him. It's better this way. To make everything appear legitimate. The hospital bills are taken care of. Focus on your recovery." And with that, he was gone, leaving Peace alone with her grief and the gnawing emptiness in her arms. Days crawled by. Marie did not visit. Henry did not visit again. Only Sam, his young face etched with worry, came to sit by her bedside, offering silent comfort. Peace, fueled by a desperate longing to see her child, pushed herself to recover with unnatural speed. Finally, she was discharged. Sam helped her out of the hospital and they took a taxi back to the mansion, but the scene that greeted them shattered any lingering hope in peace. Their belongings were piled haphazardly outside. Marie stood in the doorway, a small bag of money clutched in her hand, her expression cold and resolute. "The contract is complete, Peace," Marie stated, her voice flat and devoid of emotion. "Here is the remainder of your payment." She tossed the bag towards Peace, who barely managed to catch it. "But you promised." Peace cried out, her voice choked with anguish. "You said I could see them grow. You promised I could be a part of their lives." Marie's eyes hardened. "Circumstances change, Peace. You have your money, I have my child, everything settled. Now leave." She gestured to the two burly guards who materialized beside her. "Escort them off my property." "No, please, Ma, at least let me see him just this once." Peace struggled, her pleas falling on deaf ears. Rough hands grabbed her and Sam, throwing them outside the premises. Sam held his sister protectively. They had nowhere to go. They could not return to the village after what their aunt did. The only option was to rent a small apartment in the meantime. "I told you using a village girl wasn't a good idea, Marie. We should have hired someone from an agency. Now see what's happening." Henry sipped on his coffee after watching Peace leave. "No, Henry, that is where you are wrong. Peace was perfect, a pure, innocent village girl, but most of all very naive. She can only rant for a while, but that will be all. There's no one to back her up. Neither does she have money to go against us. We are untouchable," Marie replied with a smirk. "We still need to be careful, though. Do not underestimate her just because she's poor and helpless," Henry said. Marie nodded assuringly. Peace sat on the edge of the worn-out sofa, still in tears, the bag of money lying untouched beside her. Her gaze was fixed on the empty space, her mind replaying the fleeting moments of her pregnancy, the tiny movements within her, the imagined faces of her child. Sam sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders, his face etched with concern. "Sis," he said softly, "try to rest. You need to get your strength back so we can move forward, maybe in another city." Peace shook her head, tears silently tracing paths down her cheeks. "My son is here, Sam. In this city, yet I can't even see him. I don't even know what he looks like." "He is not ours, Peace," Sam said gently, his voice filled with a quiet wisdom beyond his years. "He was never yours. You were just helping them." "No," Peace cried, her voice raw with emotion. "That child was inside me. I felt him. He is part of me. And Marie, I don't trust her. I doubt she won't love him the way a mother should. Sis, I'm not leaving this place until I at least see my son," she said firmly. Night bled into day, and Peace remained lost in her grief. She barely ate, barely spoke. Her days were spent staring into the shadows, her mind consumed by the tiny being she had brought into the world, but was now forbidden to know. Sam tried his best to comfort her, but his words seemed to bounce off the wall of her despair. One afternoon, unable to bear the crushing weight of her grief any longer, Peace found herself walking aimlessly through the city streets. Without conscious thought, her feet led her back to the familiar gates of Henry and Marie's house. The gate was unlocked, the usually stern-faced guard nowhere in sight. A strange silence hung over the property. Hesitantly, Peace pushed the gate open and crept up the long driveway. Peeking through a window, she saw the living room. And there, alone on a large rug, lay the baby, a tiny boy, his cries echoing in the stillness of the room. From somewhere inside the house, Peace heard Marie's voice, light and carefree, punctuated by laughter. It sounded like she was on a video call, her cheerful tone a stark contrast to the baby's distressed cries. Peace's heart clenched. How could she leave this innocent child alone, his cries for comfort unanswered? A wave of fierce protectiveness surged through her. In a moment of impulsive desperation, she slipped through the unlocked front door, scooped up the crying baby, and fled back the city streets. Back in their small apartment, Sam's eyes widened in alarm as Peace cradled the sleeping infant in her arms. "Peace, what have you done? They'll call the police. They'll say you kidnapped him." Fear gnawed at Peace, but the warmth of the baby in her arms was a powerful counterpoint. "I couldn't leave him there, Sam. He was all alone, crying." "We have to leave now," Sam said urgently. Without wasting any time, they packed their few belongings. their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and a desperate hope. They took a bus to another part of the city. Back at the mansion, Henry returned from work, the silence of the house immediately striking him as unusual. "Marie?" he called out, his voice echoing through the empty rooms. He found her still engrossed in her live stream. "Where's the baby?" he asked. Marie glanced up, her brow furrowed in confusion. "The baby? He should be in the living room." "He's not there. Don't tell me for hours you didn't check on him," Henry asked angrily. Marie felt ashamed. "Instead of scolding me right now, let's look for him. He might be with one of the workers," she said. A frantic search ensued. The nanny was questioned, the staff interrogated, but the baby was nowhere to be found. Panic set in. They called the police, but Henry, acutely aware of the potential scandal, insisted on keeping the details vague, avoiding any mention of peace or the surrogacy arrangement. They launched their own private investigation, their resources vast, but Peace and the baby had vanished without a trace. Weeks turned into months. The absence of a baby in the household began to raise eyebrows among their social circle. To quell the growing curiosity and suspicion, Marie, ever the quick thinker, suggested they adopt a son in the meantime. Henry was furious, but agreed. In the new city, in a small, sparsely furnished room, Peace gazed down at the sleeping baby in her arms, a profound sense of happiness and gratitude washing over her, mingled with the ever-present fear of being discovered. She named him James, a strong, simple name that felt right. She vowed silently to provide the best life she could for her son, to protect him from the cruel world that had tried to tear them apart. Sam, fiercely protective of both Peace and James, became her unwavering ally, his young shoulders carrying a weight of responsibility beyond his years. 5 years went by, each day etched with hard work and unwavering devotion. Peace established a small restaurant, Peace's Kitchen. The aroma of her cooking drew in a steady stream of customers, their satisfied smiles a testament to her resilience. Every coin earned was carefully saved, a testament to her determination to send James to a good school, to give him opportunities she had never dreamed of. Their small apartment, though modest, was filled with laughter, color, and comforting. James, a bright and curious boy, adored his mother. His small hands always eager to help in the restaurant, his innocent chatter filling their days with joy. One crisp afternoon, as Peace walked hand in hand with James from school, when she felt someone's eyes on her. "Mommy, are you all right?" James asked. Peace looked around but saw no one. She smiled. "I'm fine, son. Let's go. Your uncle must be waiting for us." Henry lowered his car window, his face still in shock, his hands clenched into a fist as he stared at the house Peace had just entered. "That witch!" He cursed loudly, stomping inside his mansion. "Henry, what's gotten you so angry?" Marie asked, approaching him. "I saw her today during my trip to the next town. Peace was holding my son, the child I haven't seen for years now." Marie's composure flickered, a shadow of unease crossing her perfectly composed features. "Peace? That's improbable. It was her, and she had my son, a boy, about 5 years old." The unspoken implication hung heavy in the air between them. Marie's eyes narrowed, a coldness creeping into their depths. "Don't be too sure, Henry. For all we know, you couldn't have mistaken the lady for Peace." Henry turned to her with bloodshed eyes. "There was no mistake. That was Peace. And the boy with her is my son. He has my features. I saw it myself. But this is going to be the last time that witch will separate me from my son." "Don't be impulsive, Henry," Marie warned, her voice sharp and laced with a hint of fear. "We can't afford any mistakes about this." The following morning, the normalcy of Peace's quiet life was interrupted in the most heartbreaking way. Peace, needing fresh ingredients for her restaurant, left James happily building a tower of blocks in their small living room, promising to return shortly. Sam had already left for the restaurant. Immediately she left, the front door of the apartment, inadvertently left slightly ajar, creaked open silently. Henry stepped inside, his heart pounding with a desperate yearning to confirm the unsettling suspicion that had taken hold of him. James, engrossed in his play, didn't hear the soft intrusion until a tall, unfamiliar man stood in the doorway. "Hello, son." "Who are you?" James asked the man. "I'm your dad and also a friend of your mum. She sent me to come get you," Henry replied. The little boy shook his head. "You're lying. I don't have a father, and my mum warned me never to talk to strangers. A flicker of fear crossed his innocent face. Smart boy, we have to go now. Henry moved swiftly, scooping the small boy into his arms. James cried out, a muffled sound of surprise and fear. Just then, as Peace returned from the market, "Mummy!" Peace stopped in her tracks. Her eyes widened. It was James inside a very familiar moving car. Henry's car, without a doubt. The bag slipped from her grasp, scattering fruits and vegetables across the pavement. "James!" she screamed, running after the car. "Henry, no, please give me back my son." She ran as fast as she could, but her legs were no match for the car. Her legs were almost giving up. She stopped a taxi and followed swiftly behind Henry. Her heart was pounding, her face and palms sweaty. By the time she reached the imposing gates of Henry and Marie's mansion, they were firmly locked. Peace hammered on the cold iron, her voice hoarse as she screamed James's name. The gatekeeper, his face impassive, refused to yield. The sky opened and a torrential downpour began, soaking Peace to the bone, but she stood her ground, her eyes fixed on the silent, formidable house. "You have the effrontery to show your face after the atrocity you committed." Marie emerged holding a large black umbrella, her face masked with cold fury, her voice laced with venom. "If you don't leave this instant, I will call the police. I will have you arrested for harassment, for trespassing, for trying to kidnap my son. Please, Ma, just let me speak to him. I promise I won't take him away. Let me know he's fine," she pleaded. "Are you deaf? Is that child in any way yours? Get out of here this instant. I've been too soft with you. Let me call the police." She pulled out her phone. Peace's heart skipped. She had no rights to James legally, nor biological. She slowly turned and moved out of the premises. The image of James's terrified cry echoing in her ears. The city lights blurred through her tears as she stumbled aimlessly through the downpour, the emptiness inside her a vast echoing void. Lost in her grief, she didn't see the approaching vehicle until it was too late. A sharp impact, a blinding flash of pain, and then darkness. A young man stepped out of the car in horror, rushing to her side. "My child, James." Peace rather whispered, her breath catching in her throat. Then the darkness claimed her. The next morning, Peace awoke to the sterile scent and beeping of machines of a hospital room. She tried to sit up, a groan escaping her lips, but a firm hand gently pushed her back down. "You need to rest," a concerned voice said. The young man from the night before stood beside her bed, his face etched with worry. "My name is Kelvin. I'm so sorry. I didn't see you." Peace stared blankly at the ceiling, her mind consumed by a single overwhelming thought. James. Ignoring Kelvin's protests, she tried to pull herself out of the tangle of tubes and wires. "I have to go," she mumbled, her voice weak and raspy. "My son, but you have to recover first." Kelvin held her hands back. "I have no time for that," she screamed back amidst tears. He gently sighed and realized her. Running out of the hospital, she made her way back to Henry and Marie's mansion. The gatekeeper was still there, unyielding. "Please just let me see James, just this once." She banged the locked gates. The front door opened and Marie emerged, a cruel smile twisting her lips. Without a word, she grabbed a nearby garden hose and sprayed Peace with a torrent of cold water, the shock momentarily stealing her breath. "Next time I will make sure it's boiled water. Foolish idiot." She spat and walked back inside. "Peace, what are you doing?" "I came here yesterday after hearing what happened, but couldn't find you." Sam suddenly appeared beside her, his face etched with worry. "They took him away again, Sam. My poor son." She hugged him, her lips quivering from the cold. "We will fight another day. Let's get you changed first." As Sam tried to lead her away, Kelvin's car pulled up. He had followed them, his concern for Peace overriding his initial shock. "Let me drive you both," he offered, his voice gentle but firm. "You don't have to," Peace softly said, walking away. Kelvin followed. "At least let me compensate for yesterday. You can stay at my house while figuring out your next step." Peace was hesitant, but having no choice, she later agreed. Kelvin took them to a sprawling mansion. "Please make yourselves comfortable. Anything you might need, don't hesitate to ask me or the maid," Kelvin said after showing the guest room. "Thank you, sir," Sam replied, smiling warmly. Kelvin nodded, returning the smile. He glanced at Peace, who was clearly a shadow of herself, then excused himself. That night, while Sam dozed off, Peace sat on the bed unable to sleep. She clutched one of James's small shirt, its faint scent a painful reminder of her reality. Later on, not wanting to disturb Sam, she wandered through the vast garden. Her gaze distant, her thoughts consumed by her son. God, I know I committed a sin, but please protect my son for me, she whispered amidst tears, clutching the shirt closer to her chest. From the window of his study, Kelvin watched her, his heart aching with pity for her quiet suffering. How could someone this small and innocent carry so much pain within her? The next morning, he prepared a simple breakfast and called for both Peace and Sam. Sam, very eager and hungry, instantly ran off to the dining. I'm not hungry, Peace said softly, turning to return to the room. Kelvin smiled gently. I knew you'd say that, but I came prepared. I'm willing to help you with your son, but first you must eat. Peace frowned. And how would you do that? Why would you even bother to help me? That's left for you to find out. If you are curious to know, then my condition is for you to take a bite. You don't want James to return just to find his mom looking like a skeleton now, do you? Hearing her son's name, Peace sluggishly sat on the table and began taking small bites. Kelvin smiled and joined them. Sam finished his meal and excused himself to the sitting room. Peace, Kelvin called, his voice calm and steady. Peace didn't respond. She was playing with the food again, lost in thoughts. I want to help you, if you allow me. I'm a lawyer. Peace looked at him, her eyes hollow. There's nothing anyone can do. The contract, it was clear. Perhaps, Kelvin conceded, but there might be a loophole somewhere. If there's even a possibility that you are James's biological mother, that changes everything. Peace smiled bitterly. I wish I was. I'll thank God for eternity if that was true, but it isn't. I only carried him as a surrogate. Kelvin placed his hands in his. We can never be too sure. Like I said, we may find something if we investigate more. Just have a little hope. Peace gently nodded, even though deep within her she knew it was a lost battle. She gave Kelvin all the details he needed, and he immediately began working on her case. Meanwhile, back at the grand mansion, the atmosphere around the dining table that morning was thick with tension. I don't want to eat. I want my mommy, James cried, pushing his plate away, his small face crumpled with misery. I know you miss your mom, James. Just try to see us as your new family for now, while you wait for her to come, Ben, Henry and Marie's adopted son, said as he gently touched his arm, his small eyes filled with empathy for his new sibling. Marie's sharp voice cut through the fragile attempt at comfort. You can starve yourself for all I care, you ungrateful brat. I've had enough of your whining and that stupid woman you call a mother. Mum is not stupid, you're the wicked one. James's small chin lifted defiantly. Marie's face contorted with rage. She stood up abruptly and slapped James hard across the face, the sound echoing in the tense silence. If you ever speak to me like that again, I will make sure you regret it. Just then, Henry's voice, thunderous with fury, boomed from the doorway. Marie, what in God's name was that? Marie flinched but stood her ground. He was being disrespectful. He needed to learn a lesson. Henry pulled James into his arms, holding the trembling boy close. He looked at Marie, his gaze filled with a cold fury she had never seen before. The next time you lay a hand on my son, Marie, you will see a side of me you never knew existed. Your son. Are you threatening me because of that? Marie asked in disbelief. That thing is my son, and for someone with no eggs, you should learn to value children with respect. Henry barked before he could restrain himself. Marie froze in her position, a tear streaming down her cheek. She quickly ran out of the dining room and locked herself in their bedroom, humiliation welling in her eyes. Henry's harsh words had struck a deep nerve, reopening the wound of her inability to conceive. Ever since James had arrived, Henry's attention towards her and Ben shifted. He pampered James, his affection for the boy eclipsing the attention he had once shown them. That useless brat. Just like your mother, you insist on causing me pain with your existence. She cursed angrily, her fist clenched. I will make sure you see hell in this house, she vowed. The house was silent that afternoon. Sam had gone out in search of an apartment for them to relocate, and Kelvin had gone to work. Peace was the only one at home. Even as she tried to busy herself with cleaning the dishes and the house, her mind always went back to James. Just this last time, she wanted to know how he was doing before lying low and planning a firm move Kelvin had in mind. In no time, she found herself Henry's mansion. Luckily for her, the gatekeeper was absent. She slipped inside, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and hope. Through the kitchen window, she saw James cleaning dishes, his small shoulders slumped with sadness. His eyes widened in surprise and then joy as he saw her. "Mommy!" he cried, running towards her. He clung to her legs. Peace knelt down, cupping his small face in her hands, tears streaming down her own. "Oh, my sweet boy," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "How are you? Are they treating you well? Did you have enough sleep? Have you had anything to eat?" James nodded. "Uncle Henry always takes care of me. He's kind to me," he replied. "My child," she whispered and hugged him again. "I want to come with you, Mommy. I don't like it here." Peace cupped his small face with a sad smile. "I promise soon enough we will be together again, but not right now, okay? Mommy has to make sure when you came back no one will be able to separate us again. For now you have to be strong for me, all right?" He nodded obediently, though sad. "Once we are together again, I'll make your favorite breakfast. Scrambled eggs." James's eyes widened happily. "All right, Mommy, I'll wait for you, but Mommy," he called with a pause, his brows furrowed in innocent confusion. "Do people own eggs?" Peace hesitated, unsure how to answer. "Yes, somehow, baby. Why do you ask?" "Because Uncle Henry told Aunt Marie that she didn't have any eggs." She was very sad. A cold dread washed over Peace. Her face narrowed. "What else did he say, James?" "James, where is that brat?" Marie's sharp voice echoed through the house. Panic flared in Peace's chest. "I have to go, sweetheart," she whispered, kissing his forehead. "Be brave." "I'll wait for you, Mommy." He hugged her tightly again. Peace quickly slipped back out of the house, her heart aching with the bittersweet joy of seeing her son, yet returning back without him. A faint smile playing on her lips. At least for now, he was doing fine. "You seem different," Kelvin observed, watching her later that evening. "You were gone for a long time. Did you see him?" Peace nodded, her smile softening. "Yes, he looked sad, but he's still my James." A wave of worry washed over her. "I just don't know how long he would hold up. You'll reunite with him soon. That's a promise," Kelvin reassured. Peace smiled hopefully. "Kelvin," she called gently. His eyes never left her. There was something James mentioned earlier. He said Henry and Mary had an argument, and Henry said Marie didn't have eggs. Kelvin's eyes narrowed, a sudden understanding dawning in his expression. There is no way he could have said it out of a slip of tongue, and for Marie to react that way, that's the confirmation we need. Peace could barely understand a thing. But how is that even possible? It was hers and James's sperm that was used. But what if they didn't? Kelvin pressed. What if they lied? It would explain why they didn't have you arrested for kidnapping. They know it will open a door they want sealed. That might also be the reason why Marie's cruel to you and James. Peace, he called. Peace looked at him with doubtful eyes. From all indications, James is your biological son and not Marie's. Peace's breath caught in her throat. The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. Could it be true? Could James be her own flesh and blood? The bond she felt, the undeniable connection. We need to know the truth. We need to visit the doctor who performed the surrogacy. That's where we start. A fragile seed of hope began to sprout in Peace's heart, battling against years of ingrained acceptance. The thought of such a profound deception was almost unbearable, yet the possibility of James truly being hers, it was a lifeline in the storm of her despair. "Yes," she said, her voice barely a whisper, her eyes filled with a newfound determination. "Yes, let's find out the truth. If indeed he's my son, I'll fight for him with everything I have." The next day, Peace and Kelvin stood in the sterile waiting room of the clinic, the air thick with anticipation. Dr. Allam, the man who had overseen the surrogacy, emerged, his face paling visibly as he recognized Peace. A flicker of unease crossed his features, a reaction that did not escape Kelvin's sharp eyes. "How may I help you?" the doctor asked, his voice carefully neutral. "My name is Peace," she began, her voice trembling slightly but gaining strength with each word. "You remember me? I used to work for Henry and Marie. 5 years ago, you performed a surrogacy procedure for them, using my body. We need to clarify something, doctor," Kelvin interjected, his voice firm and authoritative. Regarding the eggs used in that procedure, in simple terms, were they Marie's eggs or were they pieces? Dr. Allen stood up abruptly, his hands visibly shaking. What kind of preposterous accusation is this? Of course, we used Mrs. Sterling's eggs. Why would we do anything differently? The entire point of the procedure. So he's not mine then? She asked, her voice barely a whisper, laced with a profound and devastating sadness. I understand the emotional connection that can develop in surrogacy cases, the doctor said, his tone condescending. But the biological reality is clear. The child belongs to Mr. and Mrs. Sterling. Peace couldn't bear to hear any more. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring her vision. She turned and fled from the clinic, the doctor's dismissive words echoing in her ears. Kelvin followed quickly, his own suspicions now fully ignited. Peace, wait, he called, catching up to her outside. How could I have been so foolish? Peace sobbed, her body shaking with the force of her despair. To even dare to hope? It was just a dream. He's not my blood, Kelvin. He's not. Kelvin pulled her gently into his arms, offering a comforting embrace. Don't give up hope yet, Peace. Something about that doctor's reaction. It didn't feel right. What else could it be? She cried, pulling away, her eyes red and swollen. He confirmed it. It's over. No, Peace. It's not over until we know the absolute truth. I've dealt with enough lies in my career to recognize the stench of one. That doctor was hiding something. I felt it. I promise you, I will find a way to make him tell us everything. For now, let's get you back home so you'll get some rest. This is not over, all right? Peace gently nodded. Back at Kelvin's mansion, Peace remained inconsolable throughout the night. Sam, his face etched with worry, tried to comfort her, urging her to accept the doctor's words and face reality. But for the first time, Peace found herself clinging to Kelvin's intuition, the unsettling feeling she herself had experienced during the surrogacy, and the inexplicable bond she felt with James. A fierce determination began to solidify within her. She would uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The next morning, as Dr. Allen prepared to leave his clinic, his secretary informed him that he had visitors. He frowned, expecting another routine patient. Instead, he found Peace and Kelvin waiting for him, their expressions resolute. You two again? Did I not make things clear yesterday? He asked. Peace went on her knees. Please, I'm begging you, sir. Just tell me the truth. Have pity on the poor child, please. Peace saw the hesitation in his eyes, but it dispersed just as quickly as it came. I'm sorry, young lady, but I can't tell you otherwise. Dr. Allen, Kelvin began, his voice calm but firm. I don't believe we were properly introduced yesterday. I am attorney Kelvin Iode. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. The choice is yours. Dr. Allen's carefully constructed composure began to crumble. Are you threatening me? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper, his eyes darting nervously between Kelvin and Peace. Consider it an informed suggestion, Kelvin replied, his gaze unwavering. Even if you maintain your story today, we will find a way to uncover the truth. A simple DNA test, for instance. And you know what the implications of your deeds to your carrier doctor. Your license would be revoked. However, Kelvin leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping to a persuasive tone. If you cooperate now, you might just save yourself a great deal of trouble. Dr. Allen heaved a heavy sigh, the fight draining out of him. The egg that was used for the surrogacy, he stammered, his voice barely audible. It wasn't Mrs. Sterling's. Peace's breath hitched. She gripped Kelvin's arm, her knuckles white. Continue, doctor, Kelvin urged, his voice steady. Mrs. Sterling, she couldn't conceive. She doesn't have viable eggs. They instructed me, they paid me a considerable sum, to use Miss Peace's eggs for the procedure and to keep it a secret. They wanted the child to be biologically theirs in the eyes of the world. Peace stumbled backward, her legs giving way. A raw, agonizing pain tearing through her. They lied. How could they be mean to deprive me of my rights as a mother? They are evil, she cried. Kelvin helped Peace to her feet, his own expression a mixture of anger and grim satisfaction. We'll get a DNA confirmation. They have deceived you long enough, he stated, his voice firm. The results of the DNA came back swiftly, undeniable proof of the truth. It was all Peace needed. James was her son. Armed with this irrefutable evidence and the doctor's signed confession, Peace and Kelvin went to Henry and Marie's mansion. Marie was about to head out when she saw them. "Who let you into my house? Where are all these idiots? Get this thing out of my house." She didn't expect it. Peace got really close to her and landed a sharp slap on her cheeks. Marie almost fell on the floor from the impact. "You bitch, have you gone mad? How dare you raise your hands on me?" She spat angrily. "That's not even a fraction of the pain you and your husband made me go through." Peace responded back fiercely. "You both deceived and lied to me. You took my son from me. You didn't even let me hold him despite my pleas. How could you do that?" she asked, admitting tears. Her body shook with rage. "How could you sleep at night knowing you stole a child from his mother?" she screamed. Marie's eyes widened in terror. "How did you know? Did you think you could keep it hidden forever?" Kelvin asked. "It's over. We have filed a formal complaint. We have enough evidence to prove Peace is James's biological mother. The police are on their way." "No!" Marie screamed. She tried to get into the car and drive off, but just then the police apprehended her. Henry too had been arrested in his company and brought alongside his wife. "Peace, please don't do this," Marie pleaded as they dragged she and Henry away. "Mommy," James called, running towards her. Peace fell on her knees, hugging him tightly. "My child, no one's ever going to separate us again," she whispered, tears of relief and joy streaming down her face, then stood up and held his hands. "Come, my love, let's go home." James obediently did, but just he took a step with his mother. He stopped and looked back. Ben stood by the doorway, his eyes filled with tears. "Mommy," he said, his voice surprisingly mature, "can Ben come with us?" Peace looked at the small, forlorn figure, her heart softening. She had fought so hard for her own child. Could she deny this little boy a home? She nodded, a gentle smile gracing her lips. "Come on, Ben, let's go home." Kelvin organized a small house party to celebrate Peace's victory. As everyone celebrated, James, however, sat a little apart, his usual bright energy dimmed by a subtle cloud of sadness. Peace, noticing his quiet demeanor, knelt beside him, her hand gently stroking his hair. "What is it, my love?" she asked softly. "You seem a little quiet." James looked up at her, his eyes filled with a childlike sincerity that tugged at her heart. "I miss Uncle Henry, Mommy." Peace's smile faltered slightly. It was a sentiment she had anticipated, but still found difficult to navigate. He was very good to me sometimes," James continued, his voice barely a whisper. "He read me stories, and he bought me that big truck you didn't like." "I know he was kind to you, sweetheart," Peace said gently, pulling him into a hug. "But sometimes people make wrong choices, even if they seem nice at times. What matters now is that we are together. You, me, and Uncle Sam. We are your family, and we will always be here for you." She glanced at Ben, who was happily playing with Sam, his initial shyness having melted away in the warmth of their acceptance. "And now you have a brother too," Peace added, smiling at the little boy. James leaned into his mother's embrace, a small sigh escaping his lips. The mention of Ben brought a faint smile on his face. Later that evening, after James and Ben had fallen asleep, Peace found herself alone with Kelvin on the small balcony, the city lights twinkling below. She turned to him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Kelvin," she said, her voice soft, "for everything. I don't know what I would have done without you." Kelvin's gaze was warm as he looked at her. "Peace, you are one of the strongest people I have ever met. You would have found a way, but I am glad I could help." He hesitated for a moment, then took a step closer. "Peace, over the past few weeks, I've developed feelings for you." Peace looked at him, her expression a mixture of surprise and a dawning awareness. She had been so consumed with the fight for James that she hadn't fully registered the quiet support and unwavering care Kelvin had shown her. There was a genuine kindness in his eyes, a stark contrast to the manipulative cruelty she had endured. "Kelvin," she began, her voice thoughtful, "what has happened? It's changed everything for me. My focus right now is on James and Ben, on building a stable and happy life for them. They need me." Kelvin nodded understandingly. "I know, Peace. I wouldn't ask you to put anything before your children. But perhaps when you are ready, you might consider giving me a chance. I would like to be a part of your life, to support you and the kids." Peace looked out at the city lights, a sense of hope stirring within her amidst the lingering weariness. Kelvin's presence had been a beacon in her darkest hours. His intelligence, his unwavering support, and the quiet affection in his eyes were undeniable. "Perhaps, Kelvin. Perhaps in time." For now, thank you. For being a friend and my savior. Kelvin's smile widened, a genuine warmth radiating from him. That is enough, Peace. Peace's gaze returned to the city's view again. The end of one chapter had paved the way for a new beginning, one filled with the quiet joy of a mother's love and the gentle hope of a future shared with someone who saw her strength and cherished her heart. The scars of the past might remain, the memory of Henry and Marie might never fade away, but at least this time she was stronger, sure to fight for a promising and brighter future, not only for herself, but for her kids and loved ones. Dear family, what lessons did you take from this story? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to tell us where you are watching from. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. This is Leni again. Thanks for watching, stay blessed.